Heidi Mai from My Heart Place to Your Heart Place, Stacy Taylor to Heart Place Hospital podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jackie. I've been looking forward to this one since you reached out to me. So yeah, let's
Yeah,
go.
me too, me too. And so usually at this point it's kind of like how we met, but we haven't met. This is our this is our first date. So
Yeah, yep, definitely is.
so that's cool. But I heard you on reality check radio with Nat Cutler Walsh, and I was like, we need to get Stacey sooner. So straight away I messaged out to you, and that obviously landed for you too. So you said it was a big yes for you. So thank you so
Definitely.
much. Yeah, very
Thanks
cool.
for reaching out. It's like I said just off camera here, like when things are aligned, when people are meant to connect, the time's right, and like I just shared that message on RCR, but then you reached out, and I'm like, yeah, let's keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, and it's perfect timing for Hat Place Hospital because we talk a lot about the feminine,
Mm.
and a lot of people get confused. Are you just for women? So it's really cool that we've now getting some conversations going with men, and we've had lots of men come through Hat Place Hospital and starting to write Google reviews. So I feel like the universe is really telling me to put some men onto this platform.
Yeah, definitely, it's time.
Yeah,
Definitely
definitely. Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I want to share who you are, Stacey Taylor, to the listeners because I know a lot of the work that we've done is over the last 8 years is really rising up women, and now our men are kind of, what is this? What is this? What is this that's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're the mind alchemist, and you're a men's mentor,
Yeah.
and you're on a mission to help men become unstoppable. You've got me already.
Yeah.
Your singular focus is to support men to awaken, heal, and give them tools to build a marriage, a family, a business, a life that works at the highest level. I love
Yeah.
it. Through your work, you provide a comprehensive approach that fosters personal growth, emotional resilience, and practical skills. This transformative journey not only benefits men, but also has a profound impact on the women in their lives. By helping men becoming better partners, fathers, and leaders, we create healthier, more harmonious relationships with our communities. And I just want to say a big A woman to them.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, curious, Stacey, how did you get to here?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, Jackie. But basically, life had to break me to for me as a man to start to look at a different option. So, my entire life I'd seen these patterns of behavior that were almost, not almost, they were uncontrollable, as like a seemingly invisible force would leap up the minute Stacy would get his life going amazing, everything's beautiful, something would leap up, and this man would come out who wasn't even a man, who would just self-destruct everything that was beautiful in his life. And
Mm.
I always love Carl Jung's quote now. It's probably the most profound quote is until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. And so this was my journey as a man.
Full
I
body
thought,
tingles, full body tingles.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
thought I was having bad luck. I thought I was destined to have bad luck. And one day my marriage fell apart. My wife left me. My business was failing. My finances were a mess. My health was a mess. And the old Stacy crept in and said, "Oh, stop being a pussy and get after it." And this little voice inside my head said, "Man, stop. Just stop, Stacy. Something you can't see." And that was about 3 years ago, Jackie. And on that day, I didn't really know any other way. So I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I remember recording a video saying I'm going to burn my life down in search of the truth, and that's what I've done. I'm just gone on this journey to find the truth of what controls us as men, as human beings, and how to heal that. And so this is what's led me into doing this work. Is really, I never did this to help anyone initially. I did it to try and save myself.
I resonate. I was the same, but what happens is that you get so full that you actually have to share some of it. So you actually don't intentionally do the sharing, but you're so full that you actually have to give some of it away.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love
And as I found answers too, I was like, man, I'm talking to my friends, I'm talking to other men, I'm seeing it in the world like mirrored to me in real time. I'm like reading the suicide and mental health stats, and I'm like, wow, this is major. This isn't just a little problem going on. This is major. And so I've really put myself through a baptism of fire. I just said, I'm going to go all in. I'm not mucking around. Whatever comes across my path, I'm going to do it. And it's been pretty brutal at times, Jackie, to have to feel all the feels of a man, of this wounded in a boy, and to face myself and to face my greatest fears. But it's been the catalyst for what I can now help other men to do in the world. And it's so special when you can help a man heal his wounds, or go on that journey, and then you see the ripple down through his wife or his partner and then down through his children. And there's no greater feeling than seeing that.
Yeah. So I call you a change maker, a chain breaker, an earth shaker. And this is your pain to purpose story. So for us, we all had to get to our edge before we could kind of turn around and go, actually, this direction's not serving me anymore.
Yeah.
And we had a choice, to jump off the edge or take a new direction. So I'm super stoked you took the new direction.
It's interesting looking back, because I've seen multiple times in my life I had the option to take the different path, but it wasn't known. It
Mm,
was so don't go near that as a man. Like, that's the last place you want to go. And but like you say, life's got to bring us to our knees. And what I've found with men and myself is, you'll think it's brought that man to his knees, but he's got another couple of goes in him before before life will actually break him, and he says, right, everything I know, everything I've ever tried, everything I've ever believed has led me here. I've got to do something different, because that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But once we get caught up in that ego and we're so stubborn as men, we don't want to admit we've got a problem. We don't want to have to sit and face it. We want the answers. And unfortunately, on the spiritual growth and healing journey, you're going to have to take a step back and go through it to come out the other side.
yeah. So I talk about feeling it, revealing it, dealing with it, and healing it. And I'm just really curious how people have responded to this new version of Stacy Taylor. Like, have you found that your relationships have significantly changed, or have you found that you've created and therefore created room for new relationships, or how's it kind of transpired for you?
So a lot of new relationships, some relationships had to fall away because I no longer wanted to even be in those environments or in those type of settings, the traditional sort of places that men hang out. So
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of amazing new connections and relationships, and it's very scary in the beginning, because you're in this unknown wilderness. What you think spirituality is, for me as a man, is it's religion, which is another thing that had a big hold on me. So I didn't really want to be that guy. And so it was just the space of just courageous action. That's the only way I can look at it now. Even my wife said to me, she was like, man, you didn't just take the band-aid off, you ripped it off. And I just kept going and going, Jackie. And what I love about it now is, there was a part of me that knew. There was the ego who would come up every day and say, man, you're an idiot. What are you doing? Why have you gone down this path? You're crazy. You're an idiot. But there was just this inner knowing
Mhm.
that just keep going, keep going. And it took a couple of years to really see the fruits of my labor. But I realized that I'd actually, in my entire life, I'd built everything on a foundation of sand, is the analogy that I like to use. That I could get my life to this incredible place financially, romantically, everything could look shiny, but I'd built it on the sand. And every time something would trigger the little jolt in that structure, the whole thing would fall to the ground. And the way that I like to look at it now is that the last few years I've just been placing every bit of concrete in that foundation. And you're not going to see much initially, because you're building a foundation to launch your platform or your life from truth. No more lies, no more trauma, no more. And so it took some time, right, to lay down this foundation. But all of a sudden, just and especially in the last probably 2 or 3 months, especially in the last 6 weeks, it's like bang. It's like God, the universe, source is like, right, here you go. You've done the work. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah, I just like same. Just want to say same. Um, but I just find now that when you're in that authentic place and when you're being audacious and when you're coming from heart, then that's when the abundance and the joy and the passion and the pleasure and the real reason that we're designed and meant to be here on earth right now comes into place. And I think it's really, I know when I started my healing journey, I couldn't, I didn't know what not having those adaptations would be like, not having those parts of me that had supported me to survive to this part. So I couldn't see, like, yes, I was like curious. I want to get rid of this pain, but I couldn't imagine what was going to take its place. And it wasn't until I took those first steps and I thought, wow, I've got to this is amazing. I've got to tell everybody. And now I tell people that something replaces that, something better replaces it, because that was something that I wasn't hearing, I wasn't seeing in movies, I wasn't reading in books, I didn't see in people, in leaders, I didn't see in people around me. And that's something that I really find really important, like being that beacon of light, um, and sharing those really vulnerable stories. And they're stories, they're stories. They're there for us to evolve, to alchemize, to grow, to learn, and to move on to the next thing. But like you say, having that foundation. So I talk about being a PO, so being really grounded into the earth, and finding your center. And then you can find that those curveballs that come in, you go like, oh, here's a curveball. I'm ready for you. So yeah, I'm really curious, how how are men receiving this? How like for women, we're very accustomed to meeting in circle. We're very used to, meeting in bathrooms, like, um, having, these ways that we can connect. And I'm just curious how men are receiving this. Love you to share.
Yeah, so initially installed quite a lot of resistance,
Mm,
because I say this all the time. Women have been open to this and are leading the charge on healing, growth, and expansion, and men are getting left behind. We're getting actually left behind, but I believe it's all divine. It's all meant to play out that way. But like I said, like the average man will message me, and unless they're really ready to go, it's 3, 6, or 12 months before they come back and they say, "Man, I should have just jumped in then." But there's also a lot of spiritual muck around on the internet that put men off going into this space. There's a lot of woo-woo stuff out there, and that was a big fear of mine. And so I really took my time, Jackie, to figure out the path first of all. Until I could see I was in the light, I didn't want to share it with anyone too much. But once I started to see the results, and like I just say to men, be a lighthouse. Do
mm,
the work, be a lighthouse, stand on the rocks, stand in whatever. Once you start to heal, you can stand in the storm on your own, like this lighthouse, and just shine your light to the world. And everything that's meant to be attracted into your sphere will come to you. And this is what I believe a man's purpose is: to create the man he loves and admires unbiasedly, and give that man to his wife and children, and then give that man to the world.
mm. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh, I love that. I so I've got a husband, and so I went on my healing journey on my own, and then we sort of bounced together and started doing some work together. And then last year he went off and did a 5-day retreat, a static dance retreat on his own. And so we separated, and he did some healing on his own and connected with some people on his own, and then he's spent the summer doing festivals and playing music. And I found that really important, that he went off and did something on his own. And are you finding that, like, it was cool doing some stuff together eventually? Like, I'd done lots of years on my own, and then being pushed together it was an accident, actually, but it worked out quite well. um, and so, yeah, I'm just really curious, like, how are you finding that with men? Is it women that are pushing them towards you? Is it men finding you? Is it that women are wanting to do stuff together? Like, how are you finding that?
So
So,
if I do a video, I'll get more messages from the woman saying, "How do I get my husband or partner to work with you?" It's just the way it is at the moment. And but then there are some men now that are starting to go, you know what? I've been watching this guy long enough. I'll reach out, and they will usually come for one session and or do it online. And the impact's so profound that they get that it catches them. You know, like men love to see a result. If I can get a result, if I can see a solution, I'll grab it. And so I've really, even though this is a big spiritual journey, I really try to give men like a tangible experience that they can go, man, was undeniable. Like, I cannot deny what I just went through. No matter what I've believed, no matter what I think, no matter what I even thought jumping in to sign up with this guy, that by the time they come off the first session, they're so caught that, man, this gave me such relief, or this gave me such a profound experience, that they want to keep moving forward. And I just realized, even the other day, that my journey's accelerating, my own personal journey's accelerating. And I realized as I was just sitting here is that, like God, the universe, whatever you want to believe in, is preparing me, because there's nowhere else for men to run and hide anymore. It's done. And so I feel like we're like got this tidal wave that's about to collapse in on of men that are just going to go, right, I can't do this anymore, bang. And we need men that are ready to be able to lead and help other men that have actually done the
yeah,
work on this journey.
yeah. And that's why like 8 years ago, my whispers, I call them my whispers, um, said to me to care for carers. And I know it was for this time. It was, so that I can care for people like you, like me, like those of us who have taken these audacious moves, and to show up and dare to care differently, because the people are going to be ready for it, because what we've known for millennia, really, is no longer working, and we can't sustain it. We can't. It's not sustainable anymore. And I know, and you'll be the same. And I say this, and I heard you say this in reality check radio. So I was like, kindred spirits. It's simple, not easy. And I think when we see more and more lighthouses or beacons of hope, then it can be like, oh, okay, well, they've done it, so I'm going to give this a go, and see where it leads me. And then it's a ripple effect off, and that's why I focus so much on those on the front line. So if we can care for them and have them heal their boundary wounds and advocate for themselves and others and craft a life so that it best suits them, because our energy's all a little bit different. I know for me, it was many decades I tried to fit into molds, and working different, shift work and full time and part time and community and all these things, until I really discovered that where I best thrive is working in my flow, which makes sense now. Um, but it wasn't until now that I could speak that type of language. And I know for me, the spirituality side of things was really challenging, because I don't have tattoos and I don't have dreadlocks, and I don't necessarily wear a tie-dye dress. So I found it really, I had to find more of my tribe, who were showing up in the world and were being that poem, were being brave enough to speak up and say, look, I have whispers, I have inner guidance. I follow where my heart sings. Nature is my church. And the more of us that speak like that, the more we can normalize it and put it out into society. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's a lot of spiritual bypassing, like I was the same. Like, I'm like, no way do I want to be, excuse the pun, but the soy boy vegan, um, spiritual guy with the dreadlocks who does all this crazy stuff. It's just not who I am.
Mm.
And I just wanted to bring truth back to men, as I've done this journey, like I worked in tree falling and forestry, like the world's most dangerous job, like if someone had said to me years ago, Stacey, you've got these unconscious fears, I would have laughed at them because I felt like I wasn't afraid of anything.
Mhm.
But once I started to go to woods, that I realized working in the forestry was a negation to the fact that I had all this fear. So I was trying to prove I wasn't afraid. And so I had to go in and see this, and all of this is now part of the story because an everyday construction worker, a farmer, an entrepreneur can look at Stacey and go, that's just an everyday guy. Like there's nothing that I don't see in myself that I'm not seeing in him. So if he can do it, I can do it. And that's really what I love about people like you, Jackie, is we've just realized that it's not what they tell us it is or what we perceive it to be. It's whatever we want it to be. And I think that's the true truth is a person who can heal their own wounds, find their own path. That's your purpose. Everyone's purpose on this planet is to discover who they are and show other people that resonate with them the same path. So that, like even when I'm working with people, I'm saying, come on, man, hurry up. There's tens of thousands of men out there that will not relate to me, but they'll relate to you, and the world needs you right now. So
Yeah,
that's
I said there's plenty of room on the broom.
oh, more, there's too much, right? Yeah.
And I think that is actually the panacea to capitalism is service. That is what we can do to create change is to provide service. And I really see a future where everybody actually provides time of service throughout their week and then has an abundance of freedom as a result of it, because we won't need to be doing all the doing, um, because we'll be all looked after. Just
100%, right? Like once we can break out of the system
yeah,
that's a part of the trap for us, we realize that if you're doing what you love, you're not working, first of all.
yeah,
If you're doing what you love, you're going to attract other people that are doing what they love. You're going to have an overflow, abundance of love, finances, time, whatever it is. And you're actually going to enjoy every aspect of your life because you're no longer going to be tied to anything that is often to those unconscious identities of trying to get something from these things.
yeah. Yeah, I want to just go back because it keeps popping into my head, or my whispers keep telling me, is when you talked about working in forestry and your fears and facing those fears, and that's something that in health and education, and no judgment because I was the same. So one of my core wounds was I was a heart kid, I had open heart surgery as a child, and so I went in and worked in healthcare, but those wounds hadn't been healed, so I went in as an unhealed healer. And that's what I see now with people who are choosing to stay in the front line of these roles, is that they've got parts of them that they're trying to fill a need. And so when they come through the support of Heart Place Hospital, we meet them where their needs are so that we can fill those needs so that they don't have to stay in these roles that are actually burning them out, and emptying their care tanks. And they can start really ripple affecting that energy out to our most vulnerable citizens. So our kids, our elderly, our sick, our dying, and just everyday people.
I love that. I love that. Like, once you start this journey, you'll realize that there's a gaping big hole in your heart and soul. And that hole, the ego is going to go to fill it with anything that it can. But it's a never-ending hole. And the more you try to fill it, the more it wants and the more it consumes you. And one day you just wake up and you're literally numb. Often you don't want to be here anymore. You feel like, how did I end up here? I was having a conversation with a friend the other day and I said, could you imagine when we were kids, 12 or 13, if someone had told you this is what you were going to go through, you would have laughed, right? You wanted to get on the roller coaster, but it is what it is. But yeah, until you fill that gaping big wound or that hole in your heart, you will chase and chase and chase, and it will wear you down slowly over time. But it's the only way that we learn, right? Human beings is we got to go through the pain, like the phoenix, to actually burn ourselves to the ground, or to be reborn into the truth of who we really are and what we're truly meant to do here.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I'm very passionate about people not having to go to the school of hard knocks, rather like actually journeying through life rather than perhaps what we've been through. So, and that's where I'm putting my energy in, and clearly you are too. So, yeah. And so, how do people work with you? What does that look like? Is it one-on-one, or do you do group work, or?
So at the moment, I'm really focused on one-on-one,
Mm,
especially because I can get such profound results with men, even working with women, but I'm sort of focused on men at the moment. One-on-one's the main way, but I'm seeing a great need for lower cost group container style workshops there. So that's something that I'm now starting to pull together, all of the wisdom that I've had, and putting it into those types of workshops or retreats or things like that. But like I just find that men, you could get such great results when you work with a man one on one, because once a man understands something,
mm,
see, oh, this is why this has been happening. This is why I've been doing it. You can heal it. You can feel it. You can bring conscious awareness to the program or the behavior. Men just go, oh man, let's go, let's go, let's go. And they just want to go after it. So there's this massive resistance. And then there's this massive, right, let's go, because I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it, I'm experiencing the change in my reality. And it's just awesome to watch. So one on one's the main at the moment, Jackie, but
yeah,
coming be a lot of group containers
yeah,
style.
yeah. And then I can also see like some speaking engagements would be quite impactful too. Um,
That's probably, I've always known from a young age my voice was very powerful. And
mm,
even a couple of years ago, I did a video that just went viral online. This was before, I believe it was sort of a bit of the catalyst of me going into healing, but some young boys broke into our house, and I just posted this video up. Long story short, basically went to the family conference. This 15-year-old was on synthetic drugs. His parents walked out on him in the conference, and I'm sitting there initially going to give him a bit of a tune-up. But as I'm sitting there looking across the table at him, I'm like seeing my 15-year-old son, and I just came home with this frustration of how have we allowed this to happen? And I did this video and it blew up, but it went, I think, 700,000 views in a week, 10,000 shares. It ended up on the news, but it actually shut me back down because it exposed some of the wounding I had to bring out before I could actually really step into the power of that voice. So.
yeah, no, visibilities. Yeah, there's quite a bit of layers to get through to your visibility shoes put on, but once you pop, you can't stop, right?
It's so awesome, like even this morning, I was just, preparing for this, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, how is this, like you're just asking the question, like, but how is this all unfolding, after everything, just all of a sudden out of the blue, it's like every day or every week, can you jump on this podcast? Can you jump on our radio station? And I'm like, just sitting in the moment and enjoying
Mm.
fruits of my labor, that like you said, the school of hard knocks that's led me here, and just having a moment to really acknowledge myself for the courage to go on a journey that is so different to anything we've ever known. So it's I just love like sitting and sharing with people like you, and where the ripple of this goes out into the universe for everyone involved.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we're definitely pioneers. There's definitely hasn't been a smooth path to follow, but we're also on the, standing on the shoulder of massive giants of, other pioneers. And I still, a vision I have is that New Zealand has pioneered some pretty epic things. I always talk about Kate Shepherd. In 1893, she got the woman's first vote. in New Zealand, but actually in the world. So I just figure if New Zealand can do that, we can really take this sort of message and beacon of hope, you know, globally. You know, like that's how big I believe it's going to go. And you know, we're the land of the long white cloud for a reason. And we're starting to that cloud's starting to shift, and so much light's coming in. And I just thank you so much for doing this work, and but you know, jumping on the broom with us and supporting our men. And I get a lot of people that say, "What about men? What about men?" And I've been waiting. I've been waiting. And what about boys? What about younger men? Is that something that you do or know someone else that's doing work with?
So my entire life, I've been a father and a coach of young men in sports. So I've always had a massive passion for coaching kids, like young men, just kids in general.
Yeah.
So it's not something I've explored too much, but I notice like a lot of my son's friends in their 20s now, are reaching out and going, "Hey, Stace, like, I'm suffering with addiction, anxiety, depression, and like, man, you're teased, Dad. Like, you're the guy. Can you help me?" So I'll work with anyone that's open and ready to work because like if you're ready to heal, then that's your time. And if I resonate with you and it's meant to be, we should work together. I really believe that if our fathers get right, if our men become like all the ancient tribes and cultures say, if the parents heal, it goes down to the children, right? And I'm seeing this in real time with my own journey. As I heal something in myself, it literally shifts in my teenage children, and it's so neat to watch, Jackie, because, there's nothing more special as a man than seeing the people you love thrive, but not thrive truly thrive. Like you can feel it, you can see it, you can be a part of it. And to me, that is the ultimate gift. And even as I look back this morning, I'm just like, I'm so, so proud of myself. I'm so thankful I had the courage to go and do this work because it's like I'm looking up the line to my father and my uncles and my grandfathers and aunties, and I'm seeing them in their 60s and 70s suffering from the very thing I've been suffering from. And I'm now looking at my 18, 20-year-old kids. It's stopping there. And I'm like, far out. This is what it's all about. Like, like initially you're like, why me?
Yeah.
Why me?
I did that too. I would sit there rocking in the corner going, but I'm the girl next door. Why me? And then I remember being resistant. No, I can't do it. No, I can't do it. And my whispers saying, "That's cool. You've got free will." And then I was like, "What? You're going to take it away?" Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I surrender.
Well, it was for me too. I remember, so my wife left me, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do something different. I decide this on the day she leaves. Like, I get to this point, I'm going to do something different. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what this is. I knew nothing about healing. I knew nothing about spirituality. I knew nothing about it. And I go onto Facebook a day or two later, and this guy posts up breath workshop, and I knew the guy. I'm like, oh, he's a man's man. Like, read it, all the things, and I'm like, oh, that's all me. So I reach out, I sign up for this workshop, I drive up to Hamilton, and as I'm walking through the doors of this building, I see him and I see it's all ladies. And I'm like, open the door, and I'm like, oh, that part of me goes, what have you done, you idiot? And I like literally go to turn and run, but he catches me, and we're going, and I'm like looking around. Surely there's one other man. Surely, like the facilitator's a man, but surely there's one other man that's come here for this workshop. And anyway, these 8 other ladies show up, or 6 other ladies show up, and we go into this room, and I'm like, what have you done? My mind's out of control. We sit down on the chairs, and I'm like, look up, and I'm like, oh no, he's going to ask you first. So I've literally got my head down going, just don't ask me. Just don't ask me. My mind's going. And then he goes, so, oh, we'll get into it. We'll start with what brought you here, Stacey, what brought you here? And I'm like, oh. And I'm sitting there going, and literally, Jackie, these two options came up. You talk about the whispers. There was this like the little devil on the shoulder, the ego going, don't tell the truth, lie, say this, say that, da 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 da. And then there was just this little whisper over here going, well, you could do that and it can carry on the way it's been carrying on. And I remember in that room sharing stuff I hadn't even shared with my wife, I hadn't shared with a single person. And that saying, the truth will set you free. The minute I just started sharing the truth and getting the monkey off my back, it was just so relieving. And I share this truth and I'm crying in front of all these women. And then the lady beside me goes and she goes, I've got stage 4 cancer. My husband's cheated on me. I've got two little girls. And I'm streaming down my face because I'm like feeling it for her. But I'm like, it's not just me. And each of these ladies shared. And by the end of it, they became like sisters to me. And I just realized like that was the moment, man. That is the moment that every man and woman that's going to go on this healing journey, you're going to be faced with a choice. You're going to get broken, but then you're going to have the first place you're going to go, and you're going to be faced with a choice. And the minute that choice comes up, that wounded inner child, that ego is going to come up, and it's going to do everything it can to talk you out of facing it because it knows it's going to get the out, and it doesn't want that. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that's such a good story. Have you seen that guy, son?
I still have a laugh about it. Like I'll share a little bit on from that. It
Mm.
was about 3 weeks later. I hadn't really seen my wife. I knew it was over 20 years. I knew it, like in my heart, I'm like, it's done. I know that woman pretty well. She's done. And I don't really blame her either. I'd probably be done too. But she messages me one night and she's like, oh, I'm going nuts at Dad's. Can I just get out of the house and come around there and see the kids or see our son because he was 17, 18. And I'm like, yeah, do you want me to go out? She's like, no, it's all good. And so I said, oh, do you want me to throw some dinner on? She's like, yeah, that's cool. So she comes around, she catches up with our 18-year-old son. 15 minutes, he's out. He's like, I'm living my life, mum.
Yeah.
Right? And so I dish up this dinner and we're sitting at the table and I can literally feel the resentment and the anger and the frustration. And I'm just sitting there and she just says something, and usually it would just trigger me. And I'm like, oh wow, this is weird. And I just sit there. And long story short, for 3 hours, she just sits and cries and tells me everything. I think I say one sentence, and I'm just sitting there going, this is so weird. I don't have to defend anything. I don't need to fix anything. I don't need to say anything. And anyway, I just feel her melt, Jackie, just the relief and the melt. And then she goes to go back to her dad's and she's looking at me with this dumbfounded look, but she doesn't say anything. And the next morning, I just get this unexpected bang on the door, and she opens the door and she goes, "Who the fuck are you?" And I said, "I don't know either." I'm like, "I don't even know." By the end of the day, she's like, "Can you give me the number of that guy?" A week later, she's in her own journey of healing. And then we come back together, and I'm seeing the relationships in her family heal with her mother. And I'm like, man, if you didn't take that step, your wife doesn't get this, your kids don't get this. And I'm like, it was so worth it all. It was looking back, it was so worth every bit of pain. I wouldn't change a single thing just to see what the people I love are getting from it, not even what I get from it.
All right, I know, and that's why I keep talking about our frontliners because, like, if we can get them, we get their families, and we get, the kids they're teaching, and the patients that are coming through the hospitals, we get everybody real fast, so not just individuals one at a time. It's a real fast collective ripple effect. And I just wanted to add to your story. I know I call mine my Mack truck moment. So I'd had taps on my shoulder. I'd had 4x4s in the back of my head, and then I was hit by a Mack truck. And I was standing there with a prescription for an antidepressant, and I was very bravely, because when you are the help, it's very hard to ask for help. I'd very bravely gone and got some talk therapy, and I thought, is this it? I've been of service for 21 years as a New Zealand registered nurse, and this is my choice. And I remember looking at the two things, going, it's not enough. It's not enough. I'm worth more than this. And I literally followed the breadcrumbs like you did. You know, you followed a breadcrumb, and I'm sure you can resonate with this. They start becoming bread loaves, and then they start being gold nuggets, and then they start being gold boulders, and then you find the actual you don't do it for this, but then you find that abundance comes from following them. Like I was kind of like, oh, you're gonna give me that, like, oh, okay. So it's dismantling that system of, you know, time for money and production and then actually going, oh, so me showing up, shining my light, sharing my what I'm in abundance with, which is love, light, joy, passion, heart, then you're going to give me something. That's amazing. Something that I need. And sometimes, like literally sometimes it's a lettuce, you know, like, or it's a bunch of flowers, or it's just something, you know, that is more to me than exchanging time for money.
Yeah, yeah, I totally. This was a big one for me, as you know, like I'd come from this entrepreneurial background where you have to do X to get X. And even as I was going on this journey, I'm like, man, like I couldn't, I'm like, everyone's saying you need to do a group container, right? You've got to, that's how you make the money. And I'm like, but right now my work isn't meant for a group container because it's just not going to have the potency that I want with it. But there was just this toing and froing with it. And as I just sat in and I said, nah, if that's what God wants me to do, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to ask him where the money's coming from. I'm going to do what I love. I'm going to be of service. I'm going to help people. And like you say, initially it starts out with a tray of eggs. Like I'm like, man, I needed that right now. Like when you're going on this journey, God strips everything away from you, your money, anything you're hiding in is stripped away from you. And some days, you're like, I don't know, I'm going to pay my bills this week. So someone rocks up with some eggs or something from their garden. It's like, oh, thank you so much. And so as I went on this journey and I started to have gratitude for these gifts that people were bringing to me, understanding that this was the gift that I was cultivating and awakening within myself. And I always say your frequency is what you frequently see. So as I'm slowly understanding this principle and really working on my frequency, not matter or form, as
Mm,
soon as I shift the frequency and I go up another level, it's like God goes, oh, here you go. And sometimes there's a lesson in that here you go because you drop back into an old way of thinking or being or scarcity. And it's just this to and fro. But once you can become one with that journey and realize everything's happening for you, not to you. And that's simple but not easy again, Jackie, because some days you feel like it's happening to you.
yeah.
But keep going, the more I meet people like you, the more I just keep trusting, the more the universe opens up. And I know when I'm out of alignment. I know when I've gone back to my old ways because it's like the universe turns the tap off and I can see it in real time now. And so I'm like, oh, where have you gone out of alignment here? Where do you need to pull yourself back? What do you need to reveal and see to come back into alignment? And as soon as I try to go off coaching men, it was like God said, no, that's it. Shut the door on you, man. You can
Yeah.
suck some more or hit you with some more 2x4s or Mack trucks. As soon as I come back to coaching men, it's all good. I go off again.
Yeah.
Everyone's do this. And as soon as I just go, oh, these are the breadcrumbs, the signals, the lighthouse that I need to follow, the more I trust it, the more it opens up and the more opportunities come, abundance flows. It's amazing to be a part of that too.
Yeah. So at Heart Place Hospital, you've really kind of described the whole sort of structure of it. So we have visitors that come. So in often a lot of the time they're in that kind of burnout state. But we're also getting lots of visitors coming now who are wanting to prevent getting to that point, which is really exciting. And then often those visitors turn into service providers. And those service providers always stay as visitors. So we're always caring for those carers. But there's this really beautiful circular economy going on. And then the service providers all contra one another as well. So there's this other lovely circular economy going on. And then we have donors, and visitors and service providers are donors. And then our donors become visitors and service providers. It's just this beautiful kind of model of giving and receiving. This beautiful, the masculine is the giving energy and the feminine is the receiving energy. If you think about our sexuality, that's how it works too in heterosexual relationships. So it's beautiful. It's just this balance of giving and receiving, and we've we've been through the patriarchy where it was a lot of giving, and then our sisters very bravely stepped into this feminist role, which is amazing that they did this, but it really did us a bit of a disservice because they showed up saying that we can do everything. We can do anything, but we can't do everything. So now we're bringing it back into balance. So we've left patriarchy. We never went to matriarchy, and now we're coming into the yin and the yang of the balance of the masculine and feminine. And you and I are living proof of that. Our families are thriving, and we're thriving. Our families are thriving, and literally, like I find, even when I walk, I live in a village, a seaside village. Just like it just like Tinkerbell, fairy dust.
Well, your frequency, like I said, is what you frequently see. And once you're doing this work and someone's in your presence, someone's around your energy, it could be just walking past them in the street or they bump into you in the shop, you don't realize the ripple because once a frequency triggers another frequency, that can just be enough for them to trigger something to start the healing journey or level up or some level of compassion, or they're like going away like, why is Jackie so happy? Like, I'm in hell right now, and she's like so happy. What is she doing? Next minute, they're searching you on Instagram, or someone else speaks about you, and you just become this undeniable force of truth and love. That's what I believe we're here to do, is just bring truth and love to the world. And doing that, you create, like you said, that ecosystem of yin and yang, masculine and feminine, the giving, the taking, the receiving, and I think that's really where we're at right now because, I'm passionate about coaching men too, because there's a massive assault on masculinity in the world right now, and that assault is not just attacking us as men, it's attacking our children, and I was on social media the other day, and one of the top trauma coaches in the world is promoting this pride movement. And I'm like, I'm happy if you're gay, straight, whatever, I'm happy. But if we're promoting something that's attacking our children and messing with the balance of nature, not even if we don't go spirituality, but messing with nature's balance. And I actually called the guy out on it and he blocked me and had all this stuff about I need Jesus Christ. And I realized we have to be very careful of the false prophets on our journey as well. We have to stand in our discernment and in our truth, and we need to speak up when something doesn't align with me. And a part of me was like, oh, that's not very spiritual. And I'm like, yes, it is, because standing in truth and calling someone out on something that this guy's coaching millions of people on trauma, then you have to do it. And as I did it in a intelligent way, but make sure that that this is voiced. And I think that's what we need to do right now is be that light. And sometimes we have to stand up to the dark and being that light.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a word that my whispers kept talking about at the beginning of this year, that discernment was going to be really, really important this year. And it really is, and it's interesting because we shapeshift so much that we can actually find that we don't resonate with people, like we super resonate with them, and then all of a sudden we're not. We're like, oh, so we've just done this massive shapeshift, or shift, and that's okay. And I think it's really important. Like I advocate a lot at schools because I'm working with teachers. And my biggest why is actually our children. My biggest why is actually children. That's my big why. I'm finding that people are lacking the ability to take accountability. And I know for me, like I super practice. I practice it with my kids. Me too. I've got older teenage kids, and they'll say something, and I'll be like, you know what? You're right. I did do that. So we need to see more examples of people taking accountability. And I advocate at several schools, and I'm still yet to see them take accountability for their actions. Even with me sharing with them science and statistics and references and all the evidence, being a trauma trained clinician myself, and them still going back to the old ways. I mean, I'm choosing not to fall into that frequency. I'm choosing to be a change maker and put my energy into change. But I would just love to see more and more people actually taking accountability for actions and just, like taking accountability, hoponopono it, um,
Yeah.
and 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 move on and create the love frequency back again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of our role too, right? Is to make waves because people don't know what they don't know until they know. And so I can have compassion and love for everyone on the journey. But as I sat reading this thing, knowing the impact this person had, and I'm like, no, I need to call this out. Like someone's got to call this out. And as soon as you block me, and I wasn't aggressive, I wasn't rude, I just stated the facts. As soon as you block me and start defending the way that you defended, I realized, oh, yeah, we have a lot of false prophets on this journey, and we have to have discernment, not just because a lot of people are going to be caught by these, coming into this journey, spiritual journey of growth. You can be caught by some of these. And if it's meant to be, it's your journey. But I think the more truth we can have, the more discernment, the more responsibility. Like you, Jackie, like I've gone and apologized to my kids for the mistakes I've made. And in doing that, they can see that their dad, he made a mistake, but I can acknowledge you for that mistake. And even to this day, I'm still growing and learning and making mistakes. But I have this thing now. Anything's going on in my marriage or with my children, I've got this thing and I share it with all the men. I take 100% responsibility. I say, this is a mirror of you, Stacey.
Mm.
What do you need to reveal and heal here? What do you need to shift here? What do you need to see here in order to be free? Instead of attacking or trying to change the person or situation, because I have discernment where I'm like, okay, this has got nothing to do with me. I'm putting a boundary up here. But as soon as I take responsibility, the very thing in my life changes so quickly that it's like, oh, that was so simple.
Mm.
And I think that's the same thing, even when I work with men, this is the big pick up a man, Jackie, is that once a man steps into the journey, it means he has to take 100% responsibility and he can no longer be a victim because once you step through my door, your life is not the same when you step out. And so then this is why there's such a play off of, am I going to do this? No, I'll stay the same. So yeah, I love that. I love that take you have on it. It's
Yeah.
responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I could talk to you all day, Stacey. I think there's like a Jackie Stacey show on the card.
Yeah, I'm keen.
And it's just so awesome, I'm proud of myself too that I keep taking audacious um, actions and reached out to you and said come along, and I'm really excited to share this with our visitors and community at Heart Place Hospital, and please share it with yours. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what sort of magic we can make in the future together. And looking forward to all the ripple effects. So I'd love you to share with the listeners what's in your heart place right now that you can share with the listeners, and how can everybody find you?
So first of all, I just want to acknowledge you for, first of all, the courage to go on the journey, the courage to keep trusting, when there's a calling to reach out to someone, because without, I'm so new on this journey. Like most of the people I bump into have been 8, 10 years, and I've only been just coming up 3. So I just want to acknowledge you for that and thank you. For me is, have the courage to do the inner work. It is the only way forward, like the truth of this is we're not going to change our lives, our realities, our children. We're not going to be able to shift matter the way we've been able to shift matter. And so the greatest gift you can ever give yourself and everyone you love is the journey of healing. you know, and in healing, you'll find your purpose. And for the men out there, every man needs a purpose, but you will never find your true purpose until you find out who you truly are. And in finding out who you truly are, God will reveal your purpose to you. So that's what's on my heart right now to share with the people is just go find a place that resonates for you to start and start. The rest will, like Jackie said, the breadcrumbs, the bread loaves, the gold nuggets, you'll be well guided through the storm.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And how can everybody find you?
So at the moment, just mainly Facebook is probably the main place. Stacy Taylor, Instagram, I am Stacy Taylor, but there'll be a really cool website pretty soon, and I can update you when we have another conversation.
Yeah. And
You'll find
I know you're very generous, and I am too, with your shares on social media. So even if people aren't ready to kind of do that vulnerable face to face, they can get a lot of gold nuggets from that, from social media. Mm.
yeah, there's a lot of people following my content. I try to give away as much as I can to help you where you're at, and if it can just, like there's so many people that follow my content, it's like a walking healing journey. You can literally start to unravel things yourself for free just listening to the content. So that's why I do it, is just to help people and give them hope.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on to Heart Place Hospital podcast. And I look forward to sharing you with more and the ripple effects out that all of us are putting energy into. Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it. Such a good vibe and such a good conversation.
Me too. Me too.